Well, President Xi has also held talks with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Rio, the first meeting in 6 years between the country's leaders. Starmer said the UK wants a serious and pragmatic relationship with China. Kerry is Professor of Chinese Studies and Director of the Lao China Institute at King's College in London. Kerry, welcome back. Good to see you. Well, the dust has settled on this UK-China meeting now. The readouts, the spin is done. Beyond the handshakes and the photo calls, what should we now read into the UK-China talks?
Well, I think what the British Prime Minister asked for was consistency and sort of less surprises. We both had difficult times over the last few years. From the UK side, obviously change of prime ministers, I mean, kind of 4 or 5 in just a quite brief period of time, all very different ideas about China. We've gone from the golden age, 2015, to, you know, kind of the end of that. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, said that was formally over, I think, in 2023. So this is really kind of more about pragmatic engagement. And I guess what brings the sides together is, first of all, both countries, the economies are going through some challenges, and it's going to be important for them working out what they mean to each other. But as your report just alluded to, environment, AI, these are common issues which we broadly agree on. So that gives us a basis to talk, even if there are areas where we, of course, often disagree.
Well, what do these two countries mean to each other? I mean, what would an improved China-UK relationship look like?
I think for the UK, it's really that we don't have a massive amount of investment from China. I think that's the first issue. And for the UK into China, we don't have a free trade agreement, obviously. We don't really have a framework for engaging with the 400, 500 million middle class, city living. Maybe they would use British services, finance, things like this. We've got limited avenues into the Chinese services economy. And I think that's obviously what, you know, companies in Britain, some of them well established in China, like HSBC, others with less of a track record there, really want to try and exploit and kind of build up. In terms of trade, China is now our biggest, one of our biggest trading partners. I think it's 4th or 5th largest. However, it's still not a massive relationship. And, you know, there are many things where British exporters want to send their technology, their goods to China. And finally, China is really a technology superpower now. I mean, its universities are doing really well. It's creating a lot of new, innovative research, having a better relationship where we can participate in that. We can co-research. This is all, you know, very practical, very things that should be happening.
The UK centre-right newspapers are this morning briefing on what they described as the dangers of getting into bed with China for the new Labour government. This is, they would say, a high-risk and controversial strategy for Keir Starmer, is it?
I mean, I think that's... Britain knows China well. We've got a long history with each other. We are a very risk-aware country, so I think we have relations with many different partners. We can deal with that diversity, and we have a lot of knowledge about China, and China has a lot of knowledge about us. There are 200,000 Chinese students at British universities. I mean, we have an understanding. I think we're clear-sighted. We know what we want, and this government, it knows its priority is economics. It knows its priority is trying to do something about Britain's productivity issues. The world's second biggest economy, China, must play a role in that. Either we say, yes, we want China to play a role, or we say, no, we'll be able to deal with our economic problems ourselves. Either way, you have to make a decision. This government has made a pragmatic decision. I don't think it's naive. I think it's the only decision really that makes sense. And I hope that it is able to develop a rational, consistent approach to China, which balances problems with opportunities. That's what any strategy is about.
Well, let's talk about problems and opportunities then. Can the UK have its cake and eat it, have a stronger relationship with China, and at the same time have a good relationship with the incoming Trump administration?
Well, the incoming Trump administration, one assumes, is going to be quite transactional. And they may well be able to hammer out a new trade deal with China, as they did in 2020 initially, which may have benefits for others. So we have to be a little bit optimistic sometimes. It's going to be turbulent, though, because domestically America is obviously going through significant issues. And, UK is a big security partner of the United States. We can't deny that. It's a big, big relationship for us. So we have to balance that with what we do with China. But we have some of our own bilateral interests. We always have had. We have to keep sight of those. And we have to remember that what's necessarily in the US's interest isn't always in our interest, particularly, of course, because in Europe we have a very different geopolitical environment around us.
Kerry, good to see you. Thank you for that. Kerry Brown, Professor of Chinese Studies and Director of the Lao China Institute at King's College in London.